Peace be unto you, God's people. We want to thank you for tuning in to the Coptic Nation Temple, new heaven, new earth. I can say living spiritual principles, but really tonight I thank God for you who have tuned in on this Facebook Live on this blessed Wednesday. Amen. And I thank God for the Coptic Nation, to the family and friends who listen and truly come on this site and get a blessing. This title and this subject tonight is called Message to the Nation. And why is it a need for me to title it as well as speak on it? There comes a time in every foundation or every tradition or anything that we have dedicated our life to, we must take time out to evaluate and consider where we are, where we've been, and where we're going. And so today, God's people, it is important that we as Coptics who are here in North America and have been here some time to consider our vision, consider where we are and where we're going. And so tonight, as a priest in the Coptic tradition, some say, why would I consider this Facebook feed to address the nation? For one, as I said when I initially started my Facebook page, I said that my page will be used strictly for ministry. And I said the reason I'm on Facebook is because this is where the people are, and I must go where the people are. The scriptures say, go all ye into the land and preach the gospel, which is the good news. And wherever the people are, you must go. Whether the highways, the byways, the jails, the tough places, the most difficult places, the Congress, the government, and nations upon nations. You have to go and tell the word of I am that I am God. And many of us are willing, and I am one who's willing to go. So tonight, I just want to talk with you on a couple of subject matters that are very dear and sincere to me as a Coptic teacher. Tonight, I just want to give a disclaimer before we get started. Because oftentimes when something is said and many are not able to discern the truth of the matter, people get caught up in emotions. And they get caught up in emotions because either the truth has offended them or either they're not aware of that truth. And sometimes people just reject the truth. But tonight I don't come to upset you or even come to have you get angry. If that be your outcome of this message tonight, then so let it be. My intent is to enlighten you, to give you a thought, to give you something to consider as we move forward. It is in a crucial time and period that we're in this great Coptic journey. I've been in the Coptic tradition for many years. I was one who was reared up in this tradition. I am like a fulfillment of the vision of the great prophet. I was a child who marched in the Little People's Church and moved on up to a student, came out at the age of 12, moved up in the degrees and became a prince, a bearer, and then was elevated even after the ascension of the prophet to a major prophet, to a minister, and then eventually a leader, and now the royal priest. So I've walked the spiritual journey in this tradition. My record speaks for itself. I am duly qualified and I'm duly set aside to speak in behalf of the nation. So therefore, this is out of love and out of wisdom, the things I'm going to touch on tonight. And I pray that you open up your spiritual ear and your heart to hear what the Spirit is saying. Someone has to take a stance. Someone has to be able to hold steadfast in the mind against all odds and difficulties and those things that seem to be pressing against us. And so today, God's people, as I said earlier, some say, why in this format? And so again, why not do it in a private manner? Well, you know, to try to go to each church and try to go to each brother to call, to sup, or break bread, and try to convince each individual of the things I'm going to say will be kind of most tasking and difficult, because some would allow me the ear to listen, some won't, and some just don't care. So I will put it in this format because we are in the public. Many things that I see are done on Facebook. Facebook is done in the public setting. So therefore, we're going to address it in a public setting. If you are bold enough to put it out there and bold enough to do some of the things that I have seen, then we are bold enough to correct you in the same format. So today, I have 4 major topics that I'm going to speak on, and I have seven foundating principles that I think we need to consider and stand on as a nation. Well, let's just do a brief history, just brief. Again, as the royal priest and as a representative of the prophet in his absence, that's what I am, a representative. I am here to continue the legacy, to continue the works, as well as build a archives and a record of the things that have come and things that have passed that keeps us grounded in our tradition. There are many who are working with me, and therefore I'm grateful for those who picked up the mantle to keep this great Coptic tradition going. To the friends and family who are not of the Coptic tradition, I know many have driven past 7138 Halstead, and many may know friends and loved ones who may have been a part of this great and rich tradition, but yet did not understand who we were, and even today who we are. And so maybe many precepts and concepts and falsehoods have been spoken about us, and even to sometimes of our own detriment, that some of us have participated in certain things that will make people lead to believe certain things. So tonight, as we are here, I want to set the record straight on some things, and time will not allow me to correct everything, because that's not really the intent, to try to correct everything, because I cannot be held accountable for the actions of others. All I can do is tell you what the true intent of this great teaching is. When I started Coptic Nation Temple, I often said that Coptic Nation is a divine ideal. And I would subscribe that to Prophet Cicero, who was our founder, who was later known as Melchizedek. This that I just spoke on comes from the oral tradition that I received, not of my own doing, but by my teacher, who is Mother Ambassador Rebecca, or Imperial Queen Rebecca, who was his last student of Melchizedek. So therefore, through her tradition and her teaching of the faith to us in class, I am able to carry on some of the similar sayings and remind you of some of the great words. So he is our foundation. He is the one who came to us in North America and established what we know as the Coptic faith. Amen. His temple was called the Universal Prayer House and Training School. So I'm not going to get into the whole history, because much of that is coming in the future. But I just want to paint a slight narrative. Now, with that being understood, every Coptic church that exists today, you are an offspring of Prophet Cicero. However way you are practicing it today, and however way you understand it, and however way you don't understand it, you are standing on his foundation. For every staff you carry, for every angel you put on, for every cape you wear, for every mantle you put on, for every robe you put on, for everything that you come to know was founded by this prophet. Where did he get this great tradition from? All we know, as is recorded in his booklet, it says that he tracked down the information for 22 years in search of the men of Kim. And through that search, he brought this tradition forward. And he handed down a government in North America to give to a people. And what was his primary foundation of the Universal Prayer House and Training School? He returned us back to the image of God that is in us. That is his foundation. And we find this through the words of I am that I am God. And so he was a great prophet. He did many great works according to the oral tradition. He did many great healings. And he was a very firm and stern prophet. One of the things that the prophet told us many times when he would speak on the great prophet, he would call him the prophet or the old prophet. He said that we couldn't have made it under his foundation because he was a no-nonsense prophet. And so just to move forward, not to get into the whole history, in which I could be here all night just talking on the prophet and his great works. But we do know that as he ascended back to God, he was one of the greatest leaders that ever walked this earth, if you ask the priests, because he was able to transition and lay down his life before the people. And that's all I'm going to deal with on that part. At a later date, you will hear more about that. Now, to the listening audience who are not Coptic, just follow this and listen clearly. But before he did that, he left the tradition, the Coptic faith, to a particular prophet. That prophet was known as Prophet Peter, who later became King Peter 365 degrees. In him being the one who was verbally before the people, the proclamation was made orally before the temple, before the people at that time, that he would be the one. If you have any questions, see Peter. Peter was given the government. That great prophet established the true temple of Solomon with the works of his wife, the Kennesaw Queen Capanon, to my teacher, the Imperial Queen Mother Rebecca, and many others who came. And so they established what we know as the true temple of Solomon, in which I came into the knowledge of this great tradition. So he was an established leader and teacher, as well as a prophet that was trained by the founder, which is Melchizedek, who the people, as my teacher said, they began to call him Melchizedek. And when she would introduce him in class to us, she said, I come to you after the order of Melchizedek, priest of the Most High God. That's how she would do it in class. And so therefore I honor that same tradition because I am a student of her. And so therefore, he was called many other great titles. Those titles will not be mentioned on tonight, but he was also called many other titles because of his works. And so this brings us to prophet. And Prophet Peter came and did many works. And there came a time, and there's much in between, but I'm not going to deal with all that. The prophet made his transition. And what I'm about to say, this is out of love and out of wisdom. And I pray that you hear with a sincere heart. Now, prophet oftentimes talked about the one coming after him and talked about how difficult it would be for the one coming after him. But he never mentioned a name. There was never a name mentioned of who should be after him. He would always talk in reference there will be one coming. And so because he talked about it, we knew that someone was coming, but we didn't know who. And so therefore, when prophet transitioned, prophet did not hear me clear. Hear me clear. Prophet did not get up in the true temple of Solomon in no time ever and stand a prophet up, a minister up at that time, a prince up at that time, a child up at that time, and said he will be the leader after my absence. Now, to respond to them who have variations of this, they said that the prophet had told them this in private or told them this in many different settings, or someone overheard the prophet tell them that. I don't know if that was said or not, because I only can go on what was said in the public setting. If you ask any of us around who were there, no one can ever bear record or witness that Prophet Peter stood a man up in the middle of the temple, in the middle of the nation, and called the name and said, you are the one that will carry this tradition forward. He said, before I put it in the wrong hands, he said, I will go to glory and reveal it back to you at a later date. That was the words. So now, that brings us to where we are today. Prophet transitioned and left us in 1989. And I found it difficult at that time because I knew, Prophet to me was like a father. And just like we have our natural mother and fathers who we love dearly and we never envision them leaving us, we always want to see them as they grow, and as we grow older, we want the years and the memories to carry us on. But as a child, perspective looking at the prophet, because again, I grew up under him, I didn't ever see the prophet as leaving us. I just didn't. I mean, you can say I was naive or unrealistically thinking, but as we know, the prophet could have still been here even to this day. There's going to come a time where the prophet would eventually not be able to be here, because the older I get, the prophet would have to live to be 100 or something. If I live to be 70, close to 80, or even into my hundreds, prophet would have to be in his hundreds. So we knew that as time go on, he would eventually transition. But prophet still had time that he could have been here with us because of the age of the transition. So by him transitioning, many was left in the valley of decisions. And so many of us, I personally stayed at the temple. And I said that I would stay to continue the works of the prophet. That was my vision at the time. That was the vision of some of the other Prince brothers and some other prophets as well, and many others decided to stay for the vision. And I told my teacher, Mother Rebecca, at the time, I said, I am not looking for another leader. And this is, as a young prince, I had this much understanding. I said, I am not looking for another leader. And I would say to you, those who had came up from under Prophet Peter, here's the wisdom you should have applied to your life at that time. And I know you may have been in disarray, and you may have been emotionally hurt, and you may not know, you may not even have an idea of how to go forth, because it was a great loss. This is true. But after all that took place, you had to sink to a place or go into a place within yourself and find out what you must do to go forward. So I told my teacher, I said, I'm willing to work with a leader as my brother. So here was the wisdom that should have been applied. As all of us who came from under the prophet, let's look at it like this so you can follow me, listen with a spiritual ear. If prophet was our spiritual father and we are his spiritual children, it's just like it naturally so. When your parents transition, you have siblings. You may have an older brother or may have a sibling who is remind you just like dad, or sister remind you of mom. But even though they may have the attributes and some of the characteristics, they're not mom. You don't call your brother mama. A daddy, or you don't call your sister mama. You honor them for the likeness of mama, the wisdom of mama, but they're still your brother. So instead of us start going to this, who is the leader and who's this and who's that, you should have said, I'm willing to work with a righteous brother to keep the vision going, whoever that may be. So that could have been the outcome of many of us, but many of us got into this disarray, and people started going against one another, saying, I'm the one, no, I'm the one. And it became a thing about who was the leader. And because of that history of our tradition, many of us have been going through great trials and tribulations, because it caused a lot of pain to some, caused a lot of family division, caused a lot to not respect brothers for their call that they believe God had put upon their life. Here's a great wisdom I learned out of this from the prophet. Because he left the door open, watch this. Because he left the door open, he gave every leader an equal opportunity. So if a leader felt in his spirit, I am the one to carry it on. And another prophet said, I am the one to carry it on. Or God is talking to me, or the I am is speaking in my spirit, or I got the keys to the kingdom, or I know how to do this, or I know I'm capable of doing that. Well, the door is open. And now your works will speak for itself. Jesus said we would know a tree by the fruit it bears. So no one has to ask the question, are you the one to carry it on or the one to participate in this great tradition? Because the works will be the evidence of what you do. And that way, either you stand or fall is based on your works of your own hand. And so that's where we are. So that's just a little history. And so today we have several Coptic churches that exist. And we do not have a unified understanding of the tradition. Why? Because, as I said earlier, after prophet being the singular leader at that time. Now let me remind you, let me go back just a little bit. When prophet was called to be the leader, there were people of Prophet Cicero's time did not accept prophet. So there were many who went out just the same and said, I'm going to build. But the record shows, history shows, that prophet built the biggest Coptic church outside of Melchizedek and still have has the most churches birthed from his ministry than any other Coptic brother who was in the days of Prophet Cicero. So we know he is the one. There is no doubt that he was the one. So now, we are the offsprings of Prophet Peter. So I have no issue or no conflict with any brother who decides to stand and do this work. But I have to ask a question. If you are called to do this work, in what way and how are you going to represent this work? Because in dealing with God's people, you have to be mindful of your actions. Because we going into the world and asking people to come, see, come here, come learn. You are the manifestation of the thing that you teach. So we can no longer say what prophet did because he has done his work. I am a product of him. So when people see me, they either see me as the manifestation of the thing that I teach, which gives him his credibility, which gives Prophet Cicero his credibility. But if I do not represent the foundation as it was taught, and I represent any other thing other than that, then that is what the people see, and that's what the people call Coptic, and that's what the people destroy or condemn based upon these actions. So my first thing I want to say, so that's just a little history part. The 4 topics I want to touch on, and then we're going to get to the 7 fundamental principles the temple should be focused on. First, I want to thank God for all the members in the days of Prophet Cicero, for their sacrifice, their dedication, those who came in and was righteous in the faith tradition. I bless your spirit. I thank those in the days of Prophet Peter who came in, saw the vision, and was righteous and did those. I want to speak to the righteous members, those who came in and saw the great Coptic faith for what it really is. I bless you today. I want to thank those who have transitioned and have gone on and no longer with us. I want to thank those for the sacrifice and their service, because without them, we stand on great giants. You know, this is great. We call this Black History Month. This is a little Black history. These were people who came in of great faith, and they were strong in their own area, and they helped maintain to build this great tradition that you and I are standing on today. We're standing on giants. We're standing on those who paved the way for us to be here, and I will not apologize. I will not disrespect this tradition, and I will not let nobody come in and disrespect this tradition. and those who are still present among us, you will not be allowed to disrespect this tradition because too much has been done for us to be here. So we just want to thank those. That's one of the first things I want to do. Thank those, my mother and many others, and I can go on, all the great soldiers, for I am that I am God. We bless your name, and you will live on and never die. The next thing I want to talk about is our identity. The word Coptic, we know and should understand, is not a word that Prophet Cicero created. It's not a tradition he established. He, as a seeker and a teacher, searched out and searched long and hard. And from our understanding, that he looked towards the Coptic, which is a Greek word for Egyptos, which also means Egypt and the many other names that Egypt have. He connected us to this great tradition through the method and the principles that he handed down to us. So when we start to grow from Prophet Cicero era to King Peter's era, and then we are now coming forth, we were all out here trying to define who we was. I must take credit, and I will, because even when I was teaching, based again on what my teacher used to teach, I used to teach my tribe, and I have witnesses that are still with me today, that I would teach, we were after the order of Melchizedek. And when we began to form with some other Coptic churches, which is called the Adam, I petitioned that we should be called Coptic Adam. Now, what does it mean to be Coptic Adam? I know this name has been tossed around. People have tried to rebel against it. People ask, what does it mean? And why should we be called this? And I realized you was not rebelling against the priest. You was rebelling against the prophet. You went against him. And many have went against the prophet. I often say, you're not going to win, beloved. You're not going to win. And so I told the church, the reason we say Coptic after order of Melchizedek, because Jesus himself comes after the order of Melchizedek. Abraham himself met him. David said, I will not repent that thou art a priest forever. When you understand the sacred order of the Melchizedek priesthood, you would have understood what it meant to be after his order. Well, he was called Melchizedek. And this way we practice is the order in which we practice. And so that was to give us identity, because there are Coptics in the East who we are not affiliated with. There's Coptics here in America, in different parts of California. You got all types of Coptics. We're not the only one who carried the banner, the Coptics. And even when I was thinking of a name of a temple, you know, it was because of my mother came up with the term Coptic nation, and I put temple on. And so I was blessed to even start initiating the ideal. Prior to that, we was not saying nation. Just a fact. This is a historical fact. It was mentioned. We was considered an organization. It was considered a temple. But you didn't hear the concept nation. And I'm going to deal with that word. What does that mean when I say Coptic nation? So now everybody said, we're a nation, nation, nation is nation. That I'm over the nation, over the nation. But if you wasn't calling yourself a nation prior to that, well, we were just a church. We were just a church, and now we expanded to the various churches. So now we're growing broader. Now the word nation is appropriate because we have more people in different temples. So God had gave me that idea to call, well, not the idea, my mother was the one. And we made the church, named the church Coptic Nation. And so we're Coptic Adam. That's who we are. And if you don't know, then you need to sit down, take time, and ask someone to explain it to you properly. What does it mean? It's not just a figurative of speech. It's not just a word to be tossed around because it sounds cute, or it sounds like, so you could be in the in crowd to make people think you know what's really going on. You say it. If you don't know, then you need to reach out to the priest and many others who can probably help you, and I would be glad to walk you through every degree of the order of Melchizedek. It's sad to be demonstrating something and don't even know what you're demonstrating. And we have many of us who are doing that today. The Coptic religion is a great tradition. And I say tradition because that's part of it. But the thing that is so sad is that you have teachers who don't know how to teach it. You have people who don't even understand the basics of our tradition. It is not just the garments. It is not just the march. It is not just quoting certain scriptures. You have to understand who we are and what our capabilities are as Coptics. And so this is what I want to address, because before, as Prophet Sister said, he said, before you mess it up, he said, I'll go back to glory. So if he was concerned about it being messed up then, what was going on that would cause him to say, before you mess it up, I'll go? And then Prophet Peter didn't say he would go because you would mess it up. You know, Prophet said, I'll give you enough rope to hang yourself. But he told you right and wrong, and you had to choose to do right or wrong. Now this generation, or this era we're in, people don't even know the difference between the right and the wrong. I'm going to use something that Queen Jury said, the new wrong is the new right. And so many believe, because they are now leaders, teachers, that they have a right to do whatever they want, when they want to do it, and that is not necessarily so. One of the biggest lies is often said, and it's true in one aspect, but it's a catchism, and it's a trick statement, because you're not really understanding what you're saying. They say, didn't no true writer see it alike? That may be true, but they all saw God. God is not the author of confusion. God is not going to tell you to do one thing and tell me to do another. In other words, God tell me it's okay for me to steal everything that I want. You steal it. I'm going to bless your hands to be a thief, and then tell someone else that work, and I'm going to bless the works of your hand. That's not the God we serve. And I'm not saying it's that extreme, but I'm just giving you a concept of how people say God told them. And then there's another thing we say, each leader has to define his own vision. That's true to some degree. Prophet Peter said it this way. He said, I had to build on Melchizedek's foundation first, before I can build on ours. Another lie is saying, can't nobody build on another man's foundation. The whole world is built upon men's foundation. You go, if you want to go into the auto business and build a car, you're going to look at the first pattern, pattern or plans on how the first car was constructed. Everything from a home, someone already went before you. So don't now say, because you're sitting supposedly in a seat of authority, that you can't build off another man's foundation. Well, then whose foundation you building off of? This foundation has been proven, tried, and know that it is what it says that it is. And the reason you say you can't build off another foundation is because you probably don't know the foundation. And you probably don't understand it. And you probably don't agree with it. Therefore, you work against it, and you're working against yourself. That's what you're doing. You're working against yourself. And everybody who you're teaching that is working against themselves, and it won't do what it said it's designed to do. And I'll get to that in a minute. Anybody can be a copy, but everybody can't be a Coptic. There's a lot of copies out here, but there's not a lot of Coptics out here. And so tonight, it's time to get our house in order. It's time for us to stand in the mind and represent this great tradition. Either you want to be a part of it, or you need to step away. There are thousands of traditions that you can be a part of. But to allow the unrighteousness to come in and corrupt those who are trying their best to take in the teaching, to live the life, and to walk in the Coptic way, then you need to move around or find another location. because no longer is it accepted. The falsehood has to come down. The lies have to come down. The misunderstanding has to come down. All the false teaching that's going out has to come down. There were some things that prophet gave us directions of not to do. Now, you answer this question for me. Would I go against a man who's proven that the God that we say we serve hears and answers his prayers? My teacher healed more people than probably the whole nation put together by herself. And you're going to tell me they said that the prophet told them there were certain things for them to continue to do what they need to do, that I'm going to go against them who have a proven track record? For somebody to come along experimenting, talking about how you feel and what you think, or what you don't understand, or what you don't agree with, and you ain't proved nothing other than showing up with a new fancy garment, which anybody can get. You understand? The third one is about what I just spoke on. The Coptic faith is a righteous teaching. Always have been, always will be. I keep saying to my people, Coptic faith is not a gutter religion. We are second to nobody. We don't bow to nobody. There's three things our temple's prophecy is built upon. You can read in his booklet. The 10th chapter of Matthew. God gave us power against all unclean spirits to heal, teach, call together all his disciples. The 3rd chapter of Exodus, where you find I am that I am God. The 3rd chapter of Daniel, we will not bow. So, the Coptic that I am, there are many great traditions that I respect and admire. But when it comes to my spiritual system and foundation, Coptic is number one. Second to nothing. Do you understand? Second to nothing. Second to nothing. And I'm not asking you to have the faith that I have. I'm not asking you to walk in the conviction I have. But I'm telling you that's where I stand. So I'm not trying to copy no other tradition. What I witnessed as a child coming up has proven that it can build God a man. And that's what the prophet come to do. Build a people back to themselves and back to the God that's in them. Remember, back to the God that's in them. The fourth one is a very touchy subject, and that is the wrongs and the hurts that have taken place in the ministry. You know, no one wants to speak on it. No one wants to speak on any ministry, whether it's Coptic, Islam, Judaism, any tradition, where the people tend to be complicit in those things that they know may not be right. And if you witness an unjust act and you don't speak out against it, then you are just as guilty as the one who committed the act. Now, let me say this. In my teaching, and as a teacher who became a prophet as well as a leader, I like to call myself a servant, I can speak only for Coptic Nation Temple at this time. You know, again, my record speaks for itself. And it's not to put me above no one or say I'm so great that, you know, I'm not without error, and not that I have some things that are on my table that I have to deal with. But what I'm saying is, I stood strong that when somebody walked across the threshold at Coptic Nation Temple or True Temple of Solomon, when I was their teacher, I vowed to the God that I serve that I would do what is right by the servants that he sent me. No one can say, and I can say this boldly and with conviction, I ain't got to second guess it, and I ain't got to wonder, can somebody come out the woodwork? There's no one that I ever taught, no one who ever came in my ministry that they can say the priest has done them wrong. purposely hurt them, took advantage of them, or did anything to violate them. And I stand on that today. And I should not be no exception to no rule. This is the rule. Now, for those who cannot speak in that like manner and talking about we all got flaws, we all fall short, we all are human, all that, don't bring those excuses under this great order. Because at the end of the day, each man and each woman is accountable to God, who's all powerful. I would not look at another man because and say, this man did it, then I can do it. Are you such a fool? So then you may have to deal with whatever that person has coming or not getting. Not only what's coming, but what's not getting. So you have to make up your mind today that the people who walk through the thresholds of any temple, mosque, synagogue, this is a general concept, that they come there already broken, already looking for help, looking to find the answers to their life. Their life is shattered. And because they're vulnerable, some people prey on vulnerable people. And do you know, let me bless you with this. Because a person get up and confess that they are a minister or in the house of God, does not make them exempt from the laws of God. And see, sometimes we somehow lose reason. You know, in all that I've ever done, my teaching is a freeing teaching. And you can't sit up around the priest and think you're not going to exercise your mind. And if you want to be made a fool by somebody, then Coptic Nation Temple will never be the temple for you. Because we free you. And we have a saying here, now that you're free, do you recognize bondage? And what does that mean? Once you show a person and free them, anything that looks like it's going to suppress them, anything that's going to look like it's going to take their freedom away, anything going to look like it's going to take their choice away, anything going to take their independence away, they can recognize it. Because they're free now. When you're in bondage, you just go along with what the bondage do. You don't know. The bond, the sick is the sick, the weak is the weak. You don't know. But once you're made free, who God free is free indeed. And that's what we do here. And that's what we're supposed to do as a nation. We're a spiritual nation. We're not against America. We're here in America. I'm an American citizen. I vote. And I want every right that I got coming in this country. Me being a nation does not make me separate against this United States. Me wearing these colors don't make me against my country. We fought for this country. We bled for this country. We've been in every war for this country. We built this nation. So I don't have to apologize for me finding my spiritual identity. These colors are also representative of a nation, but it's also representative of a spiritual meanings behind these colors. You understand? So today, God's people, we have to consider, why would somebody even come in? You look at the temples, and we ask the question, where are the people? But why? What would make them want to come in and join us? You know, I have a vision, and my vision is unique. It's unique, because I'm going to say a few things, and we're going to move on. I will ask each member, what are you doing to make sure this religion live the next 100 and 200 years? Or even into the future, further than that. And I know you can't even think beyond the next few minutes in front of you. But see, what you do today can last a lifetime. So you have to understand that as Prophet Cicero envisioned his temple, and it's still present today, I know his spirit is happy, but it is also sad because we've kind of deviated from what he gave us. Long life, good health. Long life, good health. And so we got to get back to the core of who we are. And these things can only be done through righteousness. Wrong can't make right. Unrighteousness can't make righteousness. Evil can't produce good. And we got a lot of things we got to get in order. And we must understand this. And so today, my last 7 points. So, again, there's much. I really have not touched the surface. I can pinpoint certain things, but like I say, if you listen with an open heart and an open mind, then you will understand what I'm saying. If you've already closed your heart out, if you already found a fault, then that's just what you're going to do anyway. And God bless you. And so the next 7 steps I would think we all need to focus on. So where's the vision? Where are we going? How do we survive going forward? You know, many of us have looked in our temples and asked the questions, what can we do? Is the Coptic religion relevant? Is the Coptic Nation Temple able to survive? Why are we not seeing in the world span of what we should be? There's no doubt that when people come to my Facebook feed and different ministries who are following, and those who, my numbers may not reflect on who all follow me and who listen to me on the internet, because the Coptic Nation Temple Net is one form of social media. Then we had a YouTube. Don't let the YouTube numbers fool you, because our numbers are extremely high on Coptic Nation Temple Net. You don't see those numbers, but those numbers are high because we check them. And people are tuning in. And the people know there's something unique about our message. And they are inspired because we are challenging them in areas that they are not yet spiritually connected to. But the thing that we have to understand is when they come to see and come bear witness of what they heard, do what they hear and see match up. Why would somebody come and be a part of something and there's chaos in the temple? Why would they come, be a part of something, if the temple looked like the world? Listen, if I hadn't came in when I probably came in and raised up the way I was, it would be most difficult to find a Coptic church to be a member of. That was one of my primary reasons when I decided to stay at the temple. I stayed to help, not be under anybody. And I told every leader from Joseph to Andrew to even Prophet Abednego, I'm not looking for no leader. My leader was King Peter. You got to understand, my leader is King Peter. He did everything he could do for me. And so I accepted that book was closed. And the chapter was for me to step forth and see what I'm going to do with what he gave me. So I was looking for nobody to have so great power. You know, I often say, what would they have done with a Meshach in your church? Sat me down, wouldn't let me speak, or think I'm in opposition with another leader because of the way I think and how I teach? No. I'm not in opposition with you now. So I know if I would have been in your temple, what would you have done with me? Would you have asked me to leave or kick me out? Probably so, because I wouldn't have went for a lot of the foolishness that I see some of these brothers do. And I would have told you. You understand? And see, the thing about this, I wear this symbol for a reason. Listen, I fear no man and I fear no woman. I'm telling you this. Not because of any other reason, I just don't. The God I serve has empowered me as well as you to be a soldier for I am that I am God. You understand? We don't know the time and hour, no way. Jesus said, man who fears his life, he already lost his life. If you don't fear your life for your life, you have gained eternal life. I'm going to live forever. My spirit will never die. Yours won't either if you live in I am. But you can't be no coward soldier. You can't be afraid of the arrows that come by day and night. You can't be by the scornful look. You can't be afraid of losing friendship. You can't be afraid because they ain't gonna invite you to their church. You can't be afraid because they're gonna talk about you. They're gonna already lie on you, even if you ain't doing nothing. The prophet said if you stay home, they're gonna talk about you. Go to church, they're gonna talk about you. If you do good, they're gonna talk about you. People gonna talk about people. That's what people do. But one thing I learned about this, you know how I took that talking about people. If you're talking about me, that means you're thinking about me. So I'm on your mind. I'm not thinking about you. You're thinking about me because you're talking about me. So really, instead of you thinking you working against me, really you empowering me because you have to think on me to talk about me. That's what not only me, that's with anybody. So what is our new direction? 3 of these are foundational. Healing is one of our keys. You know, there's a sad thing that happens in the Coptic tradition now. You get a call like this. I know I get many of them. Prophet, did you hear? Did I hear what? Queen such and such is sick. I didn't know she was sick. Oh yeah, prophet, she been sick for a long time. She been dealing this, doing that. Oh yeah, prophet, she been sick. I guess people just call want me to know this information. Then the next call, yeah, prophet, did you know Queen such and such, she died. Her service gonna be this Friday. Sick, and they died. But no one has been called to do no healing. Where are the healers at? Who are the healers? Do we know you by name? Your name should ring out that you are a healer in this nation. If you can't, stand down. Because too many people are dying and too many people are getting sick, and you don't know how to let God work through you to do the healing. Because you don't do the healing, God does it. But why would God hear you to heal somebody when you are unrighteous towards the Spirit and the Spirit don't even hear your voice? He hears it, but it don't answer. You know what the real key to a leader is? You know what the real key to a leader is? You know, I already asked you the question to ask your prophet or any minister. Where you leading me to? How long it's going to take me to get there? And am I coming back? Those are the 3 questions. And I often say the answer is I'm leading you to God. How long it take you to get there? I don't know. And then when you get there, you ain't going to want to come back to your old way of thinking. But the question is, this is how you know if your prophet is a man of God or he has been chosen by God. You know, he's chosen in all these terms we ask, we put on these on our prophets and teachers. Does God hear their prayer? When you go to them, and I know for a fact, I take particular cases, as I said, with particular outcomes, where I have spoke in people's life of the exact outcome. And it came to pass just as I said. My record, again, speaks for itself. And if your prophet or your whoever, minister, bishop, deacon, Doug, whatever, cannot go to their God and know for a fact that God hears them on your behalf, you're wasting a lot of time that you can never get back. Because when it really goes down, God is not hearing them. That's the key. I gave you $1 million key. And the only way you know, you put your prophet to the test. You don't hear me. You put your prophet to the test. What you mean, don't test my prophet? No, you take a matter to him, a serious matter, one that look like it ain't gonna go in your behalf. Then you go to God, you go to him, and then see what the outcome gonna be. And that's how you know. Yeah. The next one The next one is teaching. We're based upon healing, teaching, Zion. Address that. Healing and teaching. What are you teaching? What are you teaching? Our faith must understand that we are to teach. But what are you teaching? Do you know how to teach? As Mother Brooks said, do you know how to build a man and build a woman? We're based upon healing, teaching. And we don't subscribe to all teachers. Let's just be clear. And I'm going to be releasing videos. I am also going to be doing documentaries. I'm building a library. I'm going to have volumes of literature, DVDs. If you want a subject matter, you can pull volume number 62, whatever, and sit down and listen and be blessed. So what is our teaching? Is our teaching ancient Kemet? You know, we got brothers now running to ancient Kemet. I've been there, done that already. I've been there. You got to understand this. Let me just say this little part. Do not think Prophet Cicero, when in his booklet, as he starts to teach in his booklet, I'm not going to reveal what was said, he knew just as much about Egypt as any Egyptologist, even a conscious brother who think he's walking in Kemet or all this, because he referred to as the men of Kim, the children of the sun. But when he got through with all that in-depth study and teaching, what did he put us under? I am that I am. So, do you understand what you're teaching and how to teach and what to teach and what not to teach? We're not Baptists, we're not Catholic, we're not Methodists. We're Copts. And the foundation has already been laid. The last one is prophecy. We're based on what? Healing, teaching, and prophecy. I said 3 of the foundations has already been supposed to be established. To prophesy. Not to prophet, to prophesy. Where are the prophetess at? Where are the prophets who can see? When Coptic Nation Temple can bear witness that I give a foresight on what's to come. And they have lived within this time to see the things that I've spoken come to pass. And I'm not saying I'm the only one. I did not say that. I said I got my record for itself. And so have God given one only the ability, or this is freely given to those who are willing to receive it? And I know it's been given. The last one, these last 4 Coptic Nation has incorporated. I pray that you write this down and consider it, because these 7 foundating principles that we teach is the core foundation of what I teach continually. Some way or another, I deal with these topics in and out. The healing, teaching, prophesying. The one is a very essential to our Coptic journey is, as Mother Rebecca said, the way we eat, moderation, healthy eating. And I told my temple, we cannot continue. For one, we're not getting the same foods as our mother was getting, my grandmother was getting. We're not getting food directly from the farm into the pan and into our stomach. A lot of processed HMOs, chemical-induced food, preservatives, dyes, additives. So we got to be conscious, as my teachers say. There is a Coptic diet, whether you believe it or not. We got people walking around here with high blood pressure, diabetes, all kinds of ailments, overweight, all sorts of things. And then when the body breaks down, then we wonder, did God do us wrong? You got to master what goes in your mouth. Jesus says not what goes in the man, the fouls, but what comes out. But let me also remind you, you got to master what you put in your mouth. You just have to. We'll discuss that in a later date. One, I think that is essential is the oneness. You hear a lot of my teachings, you hear about the oneness. Jesus talking about that we may be one. The oneness is essential to how we see I am. When we say I am, we're not talking about no I am in a cloud, in no tree, behind no rock. We teach about the God that dwells in us. Now this God that dwells in us is just like the great mystery of many other things in the world. Many say there are many secrets. Well, maybe. And the thing about a secret is, if it's a secret and there's only a handful of people who know the secret and they don't tell nobody else the secret, well, how does the secret benefit anybody if only 2 or 3 know the secret? And then what is the secret? And then if they tell you the secret, how you know that was the secret? Because they're the only one that know the secret. So then when you get the secret, what you gonna do with the secret? Is the secret gonna put more money in your pocket? Is the secret gonna open up the doors to the universe? Is the secret gonna make you powerful? Secret gonna make you live longer? There's no secrets in God. There are mysteries, that's the key. Mother Rebecca used to do this often. And then Rebecca like can tell you. She said, I want to show you a mystery, children. And I really thought Mother Rebecca was going to, now don't get me wrong, I've seen a lot of things my teacher do. But I was ready, waiting for a mystery. I was waiting on, I used to go by her house and sit on the front porch and talk to her. I know my teacher. Yeah, I know her well. I talk with my teacher directly outside of the church center. And we would just talk about all kinds of subjects in that. My teacher was that kind of teacher. She talked on every level. And I still was waiting on her to just tell me that, Meshach, blah, 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 if you do blah, 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 this blah, blah, blah. She talked about that mind. But here's the thing, the mystery was, she was the mystery. How was it that she was able to lay hands and say the words that you heard said in your presence, and God moved on her behalf, and you got up and tried to do the same thing, said the same words, put your hands on the same places as a person you saw doing it, and you couldn't do it because it wasn't given unto you to do. And that's the mystery. That's the mystery. My God, that's the mystery. How are those able to do and others can't? You can read the same books I read. You can get the same garments I get. You can even try to talk like I get. But if God don't give it to you, or the same when it comes to you, if I can try to imitate you, walk like you, but if God don't give it to you, you'll never get it. In this life and the life to come. So, stop all this secret. There is a mystery to the Coptic faith. And that's what got the world baffled. How we survive. So we teach about the oneness. And that's where the power lies. The last 2 is what I've instituted, not this, but the money kingdom. To many of those who know the money kingdom has always been a sheet of paper with a couple of verses of the scriptures on it. But I've expanded it at Coptic Nation Temple. You see on my Facebook feed as well as on the internet, there's a whole series of money kingdom financial perspectives. We believe in that as a foundation of our church. We teach financial literacy. No matter, you say, well, priest, I don't have no money, so I can't teach. It doesn't matter. Teach on it. Learn about it. If you got $1 in your pocket, still teach on it until that spirit grow in you. If it grew in me, it can grow in you. Understand where the wealth is and how to build it. And the last one, I'm going to close out, is a legacy or inheritance. The Coptic religion is not built upon one person. And I know, based on many people who have experienced the loss of their prophet, I know you're devastated. I know you're hurt. And you may ask the question, why? Why not this one, or why so soon? But all this is to let you know that there's only one power, one supreme power. And beside that power, there is no other. The one who sustains life, the one who takes life, the one who created all things. And when God speaks, everybody has to shut up and listen. And God don't speak with tongues of man. God don't move like we move. You'll see it, but then when God does it, how do you respond? If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek thy face, seek my face, it said, then we will hear from heaven and God will heal the land. And so we got to understand that every Coptic, I don't care what temple you're in, your prophet is just a servant. We honor man, but we worship God. And anytime you put a man or anybody above that, you are on the wrong track. And so you get what you get because you don't understand. Much as I love prophet, it's not a day go by. My wife can tell you, sometimes to the detriment of my family, it's not a day go by I don't think about the prophet. In some way, it's amazing. Prophet's been gone now for almost, it'll be 29 years. 29. I was 24 when the prophet left. I'm 53. I've served more under the prophet in his absence than I did in his physical. And it feels like he hasn't gone nowhere. To me, I don't use the word dead in the same sentence with the prophet. I don't. I say the prophet has ascended or transit. I don't use the word because he's not dead, because he lives in me. And he lives in those who receive him. And if you reject the prophet, you reject yourself. And every leader, you cannot be who you claim you're going to be. And I'm going to tell you this secret, if you want a secret. You would never on this side of the sun be whoever you're trying to be if you reject him. No way. Prophecy from the seventh heaven. No way. No way. I don't care how many people you got, how many people you got following behind you, how many people you got, whatever, buck dancing behind you. You would never see the fulfillment of it. Because that's a whole nother teaching I would never reveal on this face live. But I'm telling you, just like the prophets before us, what did Elijah tell Elijah? He said, if you see me ascend, he said, wherever you go, I go. Whatever you do, I do. He said, if you see me ascend, I'll give you a double portion. And that happened because he followed his prophet. See, a prophet trains a prophet. And how do he train a prophet? You learn how to be like that prophet. Though you may do things different, but the likeness of spirit is the same. The likeness of mind is the same. If he has a loving heart, that loving heart should be in you. If he has a strong spirit, that spirit should be in you. I ain't saying you got to walk like him, talk like him, try to eat like him, but that likeness got to transfer. If that likeness ain't transferring you, I don't know who you representing. And representing yourself ain't powerful enough. Because again, I told you, every time you put the crown on in the robe, you already saying you identifying with Prophet Cicero. So how you going to identify him and then go against him? Where they do that at? So, tonight is time. I'm not in no popularity contest. I'm not no one's leader. I am someone's teacher. I am respected here at Coptic Nation Temple. That's all I could ever ask for. I'm not trying to lead nobody. I've never, in all the years, and my temple can bear witness, I've never stood and confessed I was the leader of such a mighty people. First of all, let me explain this. Like I told the people who came with me from the temple, I said, I'm your brother. And over the years, they started giving me honor as the prophet. You understand? First of all, we're not cattle. We're not hogs. And we're not dogs. And you don't inherit people. People find you worthy to be called their prophet. People find you worthy to say, I will worship with you. I will walk with you. I will serve with you. That's an honor given to you. You don't get that because you showed up. Prophet had to build the trust in the people because he worked miracles in their life. And for that reason, people were dedicated and they blessed the prophet because of the change that they had witnessed in their life. And so it's the same today. You don't have a right to get up and cuss the people out or talk down to the people. These are not your people. You can barely govern yourself, talking about governing other people. But if the people are complicit in this, and you sit here, oh, I got my blessing because my prophet cussed me out, then go get your blessing. See how far that gets you. Oh, God chastises them who he loved. God. Who? God. Prophets are to build up and tear down. Yes, prophets are warners of the people. The prophets will tell you to turn your heart away from corruption and turn your way back to God. Yes, that's what prophets are sent to do. But a prophet is just a messenger. A pastor is one who's over the shepherd, over the sheep. A king is one who governs up with authority. A priest is the one who blesses and makes intercession. A teacher is the one who teaches. A rabbi is one who studies the laws and keeps the laws. You can go on to all these titles, but at the end of the day, you're just a servant. And that's it, that's all. Who is in a leadership position. And you lead by example. So it's time for the nation to consider. It's time to do the separating. This is the day. Now the day has come. Prophet said the day will come. The prophecy is now fulfilled. The day has come that the wheat and the tare must separate. And listen, if you only got a handful of people, you only got 10 righteous soldiers, what did God tell Abraham? If I find 10, I'll save that city. So the numbers, what is numbers? What is numbers? Numbers have its place. But if you can't get 10 righteous souls to do what is right, what you gonna do with 1,000 souls that you can't get right? So the hour is now. I've dedicated my life, made great sacrifices. My wife has been by my side, sometimes through the difficulties. Sometimes we didn't always see and didn't always understand the journey. But through it all, because what God has done for me, I've stayed dedicated. And I am dedicated to this day. And so I pray that this Facebook feed make you consider your role. Another word I would like to leave behind is accountability. Everyone be accountable for their own actions. I can't be held guilty for what I have not done. So when I say, and I'm not one to say, let me say this, I'm not one sitting here in denial, and I'm not one sitting here trying to make something look like what it's not. If there's something I'm not aware of, I'm not aware of it. I can't be held guilty if I visit a temple and I'm not aware of the things that go on in that temple to make it feel like I am complicit in the behavior of that temple. No. A lot of times I go because I go to represent a light. And sometimes I go, sometimes to the detriment of I shouldn't go, but I go because hopefully someone can see that there is hope. But if you stay in those situations, then, then you get what you get. And this is a time for the righteous Coptics, the dedicated members that I see press their way, do what is asked of them, heal. And when no one else is here, those members, we owe it to them to show them that they made the right choice to stay on the battlefield. And so today, God's people, I pray that you get a thought and you can say, again, this shouldn't have been done in a public forum, but the way my family act, Coptic family act on this social media, this is where you clowning at. You know, I don't come in here to vent and throw off on people. I will mention names if necessary, but the brethren is so weak that if I start mentioning names and start telling them some things that need to be addressed, they can't handle it. And we all supposed to be brothers on the same level. So you don't say names, but their actions speak for themselves. If I talk about the action, then you know who the brother is. Because we all need to improve. I need to improve. You need to improve. We all need to do better about one another. This is love today. And again, I pray that you share this with someone. If anyone have a direct question they want to ask me, I'm not beyond reproach. If anyone wants to know more about the tradition, I'm willing to sit down and sup with you. I'm your brother. But this is love teaching. So before you throw in the towel and feel like the person you served under or the prophet that you have, if you believe your prophet is the only true one, you can believe that. That's fine. But know that someone else feel the same about theirs. And so let's get out of this. I'm the one. He's the one. I'm looking for the leader of the nation. I'm looking for this person to come forth. It's not going to happen. And this is my closing. I'm actually going to say that one. I'm not going to speak on that. But again, there is an answer how we need to resolve our concerns. There's a thing where it said we must come together. I'm just going to say this and close out. When we need to come together, and I often ask the question for all the times we've assembled, all the times we gathered, I always ask the question, what does come together look like? What does it represent? And so I say this, coming together means coming together to do what is right. And we don't have to be up under no one banner to do what is right. So if we all walk in the room and we seeking to love God with all our heart and mind and our soul, love our brothers as we love ourselves, and then do what is right, we are together. You're not together with me when you're doing unrighteousness, because I'm not going to stand with you. So that's the basics of coming together. All us, we sitting up under one leader, and one leader telling us to do this, or one leader think he gonna bless me, or one leader think he gonna bless you, or if you don't come on my threshold and I don't touch you, you ain't gonna be for real. For real. For real. You are a blessing to those who God send you, and you may be a light to those who God calls you to teach. But to try to put a whole group of people under that, that's not going to happen. So just envision the table of brotherhood and sisterhood of us all sitting there on one accord. And so I pray tonight that it's been a blessing. I don't know how far I went. How much time did I go?
An hour and 20 minutes.
All right, hour and 20. I thank God for those who assisted me tonight. This is just the first of many. I'm going to do some in-depth teaching, and because I'm not going back to the spirit world, as some say, the sepulchre. I'm not going back to the spirit world with all this wisdom that God has given. I earned mine, and I labor for it. And before I go back to the spirit world, I'm going to put it in these little babies. I'm going to put it in anybody who was willing to eat it up. Because guess what? How else would it go forth? There was a question asked yesterday about what was King Peter's banquet hall. What was the address? And you can see it on my Facebook feed. And what was the name? So everybody, I wasn't at the house at the time, so when I responded, I had the address in mind, but I wanted to make sure to get home and look at my documents. So a lot of people was putting the address on. Somebody put like 119th, somebody put like 117th, everybody putting all these addresses. I can say, nope, that's not it. So just the fact that King Peter had a King Peter's banquet hall, and I know if I've attended it, because our wedding reception was there, the Prince Ball was there, and we used to support and do events there and other activities. Just the address, people didn't remember. So if you leave things to memory, look how much get lost through translation. That's why you have to do. Teachers, stand up and teach like never before. Prophets, stand up and be prophets like never before. Nation, we're a spiritual nation within a nation. Stand up and be accounted for. God bless you. Heaven smile upon you. Until next time we meet, God bless.